The old dirt road stretched endlessly before him, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. John shivered, pulling his jacket tighter against the biting wind. He shouldn't have taken this shortcut. He was late, terribly late, but turning back wasn't an option now. Headlights flashed in the distance, growing rapidly closer. A car emerged from the darkness, its headlights like two burning eyes. Relief washed over John. He stepped to the edge of the road, sticking his thumb out hopefully. The car screeched to a halt beside him, kicking up dust and gravel. A figure leaned out, shrouded in shadow. "Need a lift?" a raspy voice asked. John hesitated, a prickle of unease running down his spine. Something felt off. Ignoring his better judgment, John climbed into the car. As they drove, he tried to make conversation, but the figure remained silent, a shadowy presence at the edge of his vision. The car suddenly swerved, the figure jerking the steering wheel. They crashed into a ditch, the world dissolving into darkness. John woke with a gasp, finding himself lying by the side of the road. His car was gone. The rain was icy cold, soaking through his clothes. He saw a figure standing in the distance, shrouded in mist. It raised a hand, its voice a low rasp carried on the wind. "Thanks for the ride." Lost and disoriented, Sarah stumbled through the dense forest. The sun was setting, casting long, eerie shadows through the trees. She was alone, miles from civilization. Panic gnawed at the edges of her mind. She tripped over a gnarled root, falling heavily. Looking up, she saw it. A dilapidated cabin, barely visible through the undergrowth. Hope surged through her. It wasn't much, but it offered shelter. Cautiously she approached, pushing open the creaking door. The interior was dark and dusty, cobwebs hanging from every corner. The air was thick with the smell of decay and something else, something faintly metallic. She explored cautiously, her heart pounding. In the corner, she found a fireplace, a pile of logs stacked neatly beside it. Relief flooded her. She could build a fire, stay warm through the night. As she bent down, she noticed something scratched into the dusty floorboards. A single word, scrawled in what looked like dried blood. "Run!" A cold hand clamped over her mouth, stifling her scream. She struggled, her eyes wide with terror. A raspy voice whispered in her ear, "You should have listened." The old house stood on a hill overlooking the town, its windows like vacant eyes. Emily shivered, pulling her jacket tighter. Her new home was unsettling, to say the least, but she couldn't deny its eerie charm. The first few nights were uneventful, filled only with the creaking of old timbers and the whistling wind. Then the whispers started, faint at first. Barely audible murmurs that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. They grew stronger each night, morphing into hushed voices, then chilling screams. Emily tried to ignore them, telling herself it was just the wind playing tricks on her mind, but the voices persisted, growing bolder, more insistent. One particularly stormy night, the whispers reached a fever pitch. The house seemed to vibrate with their intensity. Emily pressed her hands against her ears, desperate to block out the sound. It was then that the wall in front of her crumbled inward, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. Inside she saw them, dozens of ghostly figures, their voices a cacophony of whispers and screams. They reached for her, their eyes filled with a chilling hunger. Emily stumbled back, her scream lost in the roar of the wind. The antique mirror was a steel, a beautiful, ornate thing that Michael found tucked away in a dusty corner of the flea market. He had a feeling it would look perfect in his living room. He hung it on the wall, admiring the way it reflected the flickering light of the fireplace. It was then that he noticed something strange. The reflection in the mirror wasn't quite right. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but definitely there. As the days passed, the discrepancies in the reflection grew more pronounced. The figure in the mirror was paler, thinner, its eyes reflecting an unsettling hunger. Michael tried to ignore it, but the unsettling presence in the reflection gnawed at his sanity. One night, he woke to a chilling cold and the feeling of being watched. He sat up in bed, his gaze drawn to the mirror across the room. The figure in the reflection was gone, replaced by an empty void that seemed to pull at him. Then the mirror rippled, like water disturbed by a stone. A hand emerged, followed by an arm, then another. The figure pulled itself from the mirror, its eyes fixed on Michael with a terrifying intensity. He was trapped, a prisoner in his own home, his reflection now his worst nightmare.